to introduce our role and our relationship. I'm now the co-CEO of the Jack Jumpers, but when I moved here to Tasmania, it was to take on the commercial director role, Chief Commercial Officer, to oversee every revenue stream of the Jack Jumpers and creating the programs from the ground up. My background is 25 years in professional sport across a number of different codes. AFL, Western Kilda, Melbourne Storm, Melbourne Rebels, Brumbies Rugby, Com Games, and now the Jack Jumpers. So I've worked in this space for a really long time, always in a sponsorship and commercial space. Something I believe in, I'm passionate about it and I love it. So I want to share with you tonight a few of the things that I've learned along the journey. Christy and I discussed doing this together because outside my direct reports, this is the woman I spend most of my time with, talking to every day.
I don't know if she's lucky or, unfortunate.
But Christy is obviously the partnerships manager. She'll explain a bit more about her role at My State Bank, and they're our principal partner. They invest a lot in us, so we invest a lot back in them, and I'll talk to you about why that mutual investment in each other is really, really important. I'll hand over to you now, Christy, to talk about your background, and I'll jump up a bit later.
Great. Well, my resume is definitely not as impressive as Christine's. I've worked at My State now on and off, but over 20 years, mainly in the marketing and commercial space there. So my role essentially is to look after all of My State's commercial sponsorships and our partnerships. So as we start to grow out a partnership model for us. So tonight I'm going to basically take you through a bit of our sponsorship strategy and how we approach our sponsorships, particularly as we work with the Jack Jumpers, because I think as organisations looking to get sponsorships from various commercial organisations, it's kind of maybe valuable for you to know how we look at them, how we assess them, and how we kind of measure outcomes from them. So feel free to jump in at any stage. If you've got questions, there's no silly questions, and I'll probably forget half the content. So if I've forgotten half, just pull me up on it. Great. So as I said, so my title's community and sponsorship, but we've really split the portfolio. So in the sponsorship side or partnership side, we look at things that can provide a return on investment for us. So as money's tight these days in any world, and really, our CEO, our executive team will always look at the team that's managing these to say, look, what are we getting out of this? How do we prove that it's worthwhile for us? So in the sponsored assets, we've really got three key partnerships at the moment, the major ones. That's the Jack Jumpers, the My State Bank Arena, and Football Tas. So we sponsor the Women's Super League with Football Tas. And on the community side, we've got the My State Foundation. So that's really our philanthropic kind of CSR. We kind of invest between 150 and 200,000 back into the local community each year through that foundation. And then what we do is we look for opportunities to mix some of our commercial assets to look where we can bring in the community side of things as well. So that's just giving a bit of an example. The one like the sponsored assets, they're measurable. So we make sure that we can track how it's going, measure what's happening with us, and the community side we do because it's a good thing for an organisation to do to give back to our local communities. We kind of set off kind of doing a bit of a sponsorship strategy a few years ago, and we looked at, what was important to us, what was important to our commercial partnerships, how we make the most out of them, and how that align with our organisational values. So really what we do when we look at our partnerships, we look at things that, we need to align with organisations that, really speak to our community and digital focus. The world's changing, technologies are coming on board, so any partnerships that we've got really need to kind of lean into those attributes. Ones that we talk about an audience first strategy, and what that means is customers at the heart of every decision we make. So really when we partner with people like the Jack Jumpers, they've got fans and everything that they do revolves around their fans and the engagement, so making sure that we've got the same values there. Again, clear purpose. In order to deliver, we need to get value and return on our investments in the commercial space, so we need to be clear about what our objectives are. Again, we've got kind of two audiences we're looking at. We've got our home, like My State. We've been part of this state now for over 60 years through various kind of iterations. So we call that our home markets, and we're growing in new markets. So any partnership that we've got, may fit within Tassie, our focus is mainly here. But if it's got if you talk about Jack Jumpers, we get benefit on a national scale, and also with the MyState Bank Arena. As I said, we're changing. The world's changing and moving into digital. So again, looking at our partnership and leveraging opportunities and how we can kind of make the most out of the digital environment. And also leveraging the IP of an organisation. So, Jack Jumpers is probably a prime example of that. They've come in and they've really galvanised the state in a couple of years. And for us to partner with an organisation like that has been valuable for us as well. So there's value in that side of the partnership for us. Thank you. I talked a little bit about our objectives, and with our sponsorships and partnerships, we've really got kind of 4 key objectives. Brand awareness, so that's kind of promoting, MyState's brand. So when you think of MyState, or when you think of who am I going to go to for a loan or I need an account, we want to be top of mind with people. We want them to have a positive association, whether it's through a partnership or they've had a good experience by going to the arena, or anything else that we do across the state. So we really push hard into that brand awareness space. Lead generation, that's another objective for us. So when we look at our partnerships, how can we grow new customers? How can we leverage things like databases and reach of clubs and associations and things like that to get leads and grow our customer base? Customer engagement, so we've got 170,000 customers and 100,000 of those live in Tassie. So every activation that we do, and I don't know if you've been to a Jack Jumpers game or been to the arena, we look to design customer-focused activations there. So our customers, for most events at the arena, including the Jack Jumpers, get in 30 minutes before everyone else. So we work to open the doors early. We work to provide valuable opportunities when you're there. Events at the arena, we've put in a MyState Bank lounge so customers can come, they can get a drink out of a glass and buy food not out of a bain-marie in our customer lounge. And through everything we do, we're just looking to put in valuable experiences for our customer. Pre-sales on tickets that go for major events at the arena. And the last one is employee engagement. So it's really important that we've got a really engaged employee base. So we've got 400 employees, mostly in Tasmania, but across the state. So we leverage our partnerships to really engage our employees. So if I look at the Jack Jumpers partnership, we've got about 15 different initiatives throughout the year, whether it's staff meet and greets with Jack Jumpers players, or going to play basketball on the MyState Bank Arena court with some Jack Jumpers reffing the game and things like that. So it's really just trying to drive that engagement for our employees. And then how do we kind of measure that? So I said before, it's really important that we can provide a return on investment for our partnerships. So looking at brand awareness. So we do a survey every 6 months of 1,000 people in Tassie. We look at what we call prompted brand awareness. So you may or may not be a customer, you get a phone call, it's like, can you tell me, have you heard of MyState Bank? That's pretty high within Tassie. But then we look at also unprompted awareness. So that is where people are asked, can you tell us banks, tell us banks that come to mind in Tassie? So we measure both of those metrics because, again, it goes back to that brand awareness. If people think of us, if people know our name, then we know that's one part of our job. Then we look at things like sponsorship awareness and recall. So, can you tell us, MyState, what do they sponsor? For example, who are they a sponsor of? And likewise, we'll call, again, in the same survey, different survey, tell us who Jack Jumpers sponsors are. And that's sitting quite high considering we're only into the second year of the partnership. So there's some of the metrics that we look at. Then also measurements across, broadcast. So if you look at Jack Jumpers, how many people were eyes on TV? What's the PR reach? So if we look at the media value, so we track things such as, it might be our Football Tas partnership. We track things of how many times are MyState and Football Tas mentioned in the media together? What media was it mentioned in? What's the value of that media? Because all of those little aspects help us put a commercial value on our partnership. Then we kind of look into social reach. So, and this is, I'll talk a little bit more about it, about things that you can do as clubs, associations, or those seeking sponsorship. But things like databases, social reach, and it's not how many people follow you, but how engaging is your content? What's the reach of it, etc. Then, if we go into the lead generations, we can track new customer growth. If we implement specific initiatives off the back of our partnership, so it might be a new customer acquisition campaign, we can track how that's gone for us as well. And then in terms of usage, how many people are using our VIP entry to the arena? Are we seeing that grow? Are more people using their cards when they transact at the arena? We're just about to implement 10% off for my state customers on food and beverage there. So we'll be able to track the increase over time. So again, getting back to the customer benefit, but also additional things that we can track through our partnerships. So next slide. Great. We've got a couple of target audiences, and these are a few years old now. So some of the data might be, incomes may be a little bit skewed, and preferences of how they like to consume media may have changed since here. But we've really got two targeted audiences that we look to engage. We've got a lot that we look to maintain, but we call them our driven up and comers and our fresh start families. So every organisation, a lot of larger organisations, will have customers that they're looking to attract for certain products. Obviously, these are kind of like the home loan products and transactional customers. We've got customers like target segments we're looking in other areas as well. But probably one thing as you're kind of looking to speak to organisations for sponsorship, it's understanding who their audience is and getting to know them before you actually pitch something to them. Partnership. So probably wondering, how do we make our partnership decisions? And when the Jack Jumpers when Christine first approached us, would have been nice to say, hey, we like basketball, let's do that, because I remember going to the Devils back in the day, and it was a great time. But look, we can't make decisions based on what we like, because otherwise they may be the wrong decisions for the business. So we have basically a whole heap of science that goes behind every decision that we make. So we don't get a proposal across our desk and say yes or no straight away. We look to actually go, okay, from a brand awareness point of view, what's the broadcast exposure? So over a full year, does it have any TV broadcast? How many eyes are on that TV? And then it's kind of rated in terms of, whether it's moderate, whether it's high, and we've got a scale that sits behind that on how we track and measure that. Physical attendance. How many people go along to a Football Tasmania women's match throughout the year? So what's the attendance? How many people attend Jack Jumpers games? Again, we measure that and rate it accordingly. Database. So again, as clubs, associations, you've got databases that, it's players that play for you. Have you got anyone else that signs up to databases? It's really important for you to kind of consider that audience, because that's a valuable asset to you, your database, because if your database is big, then it's more valuable for an organisation looking to get commercial return from it. Your social reach, like I said, it's not just about your followers. You could have 500,000 followers but have the most boring content that gets zero engagement. So it's about what content you have on your social and what reach you get from that as well. Again, website, how many people come to your website if that's appropriate. These are just some of the stats and figures that you can think about when you're looking to pitch a sponsorship. And like I said before, media value. That's something that we track on our end. But again, it's another asset that you can talk about from your point of view. And also, I've put there event and property duration. So if you look at, again, I'll refer to Christine and the Jack Jumpers, you've got 5 months of games. 5 months, isn't it? Yeah, 5 to 6 months of games. But what else do you do outside of when you're actually in market for what other programs can you look to implement to keep it relevant for a sponsor's point of view? So if it's a carnival that runs, what else do you do around that in the lead up to it, after it, etc. Consumer engagement, so do you have ambassadors that you can use, somebody that's big in your sport that can actually work with a commercial brand to get more exposure and better reach for the brand. Digital assets, website assets, so can you drive leads off some of the digital assets that you've got? Have you got a website that people go to that again, you can put advertising space on. So these are all the things we look at when we're assessing our sponsorship to say, yes, there's, that's a good asset, or that's high, low, medium. And then B2B engagement. So one thing for us is we're looking to grow our partnerships and partnerships within Tassie. What are the commercial opportunities for, to introduce us to new business brands and partners across the board? And then we look at like the community side of things. So again, it's really important that we give back in Tassie. So community support programs. So again, is there any sort of cause alignment to, if you look at us, we've got a foundation. Does your organisation support who you're looking to pitch to? Like if they've got a cause that is there any sort of cause alignment between the organisations? And then lastly, the audience, as I talked about. The age, how well does the age demographic of the commercial organisation really fit with your audience? For us, families with young children are in a target audience. Do you have families with young children that play sport with you or are involved in your club or association? Income and education levels, another thing that we look at as well. So there's a whole range of metrics we look at across the board. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach because we've got a lot of partnerships that sit outside of here that we go, great, they don't really have a database, there's no social reach. It's not to say that we can't work together and things like that, but we look at other opportunities. So back to the B2B side and even like consumer side, can we look to implement arrangements that, referral arrangements, refer customers for a home loan and $500 goes back to your club, refer people for a savings account and this much goes back to your club. So we're starting to build out that model as well. So there are there's different ways to skin a cat, so to speak. Probably kind of in summarising, I'll be quick because Christine will have some really kind of important things to talk about. I made a few notes here because I knew I'd probably forget. But kind of if you're looking to kind of pitch a sponsorship, make it relevant. So I guess what I'm saying there is don't have one generic proposal that goes out to 50 different organisations. So what's relevant? So does your organisation, does it align with who you're pitching to? So just make sure that you do your due diligence first, do your research, make sure that that the values are aligned between the two organisations. Instead of just sending something to somebody's inbox and expecting a response, actually get somebody somebody might know, reach somebody at an organisation, get them to provide an introduction to them. If you know them, reach out to them, network. So, or call the organisation and have a phone call first, because quite often, a conversation goes a long way where things get lost in an inbox other than that. And consider what you've got to give from a commercial point of view, because there's so many valuable assets that are right underneath your nose that you may not have considered before that would be valuable to I guess, a sponsor's point of view. So I guess that comes down to that conversation and working together on, is this a value to you, and fleshing out things as you're starting to work with different sponsors.
Thanks, Christy. And I know a lot of you will be sitting there going, oh, they're very big picture, but there's a lot in that you can bring back to whatever level of sponsorship you're pitching to. So today I'm going to talk to you about how to pitch a sponsorship, or how we go about pitching a sponsorship. And the first thing I'll say is, you'll notice Christy talks about them as sponsorships. I talk about them as partnerships, because for me, sponsorships at a club level are never a transaction. They're bringing together two brands for the better good of brands, so they're a partnership. For a person that's purchasing that partnership, they are part of a marketing mix and they're under the title of sponsorship. So that marketing mix can be anything in my world, from above the line advertising, a major TV campaign, a major news campaign, to, in your world, advertising at a shopping centre, on a bus. You're competing with things at a local level. I'm just competing with them at a state and national level. So everything that I'm going to talk to you about today is relevant in your world, and I'll talk to you about how you bring that back into your world. I sell everything at my club in terms of partnerships. I'm the sole person. I do anything from a $5,000 partnership up until recently, a $35 million transaction to sell the club. So it's a very broad portfolio for me. So sometimes I have to think really, really big, and sometimes I have to think really, really narrowly around what this partnership could look like to the person I'm talking to. Every dollar we get in our club is extremely valuable. One of our pillars is commercial sustainability and viability. The Devils came and they went because they weren't sustainable. The Huskies came and went because they weren't sustainable. We will never come and go because we will build a model that is so robust and sustainable, and that has to be underpinned by sponsorship partnerships, because at the end of the day, our arena is chock-a-block. We are putting people on the roof to try and make sure that people can get in there, but we can't grow that any further. So for us, the biggest upside is in partnerships. So I'm always looking at ways that we can do that, whether that's at an entry level right up to at a mega level. What I want to do is just show you a video, and this is just a bit of a break for you, but also to give you a picture of how you sell something at the $35 million range, and then we'll bring it right.
At the edge of the world is a land punished by the seasons. The Southern Ocean forging an island with unbridled beauty. Once the final destination for prisoners from Great Britain, sentenced to a life of isolation and hard work. Its people grew from the blood, the dirt and the seas. Nothing is given. Everything is earned. The island has been transformed. Its fine food distributed throughout Asia. Its cool climate has grown a wine lover's paradise. Its remoteness making it now a destination for global tourism. And its values creating a cultural and educational hub. Tasmania, the definition of revival. The state has been experiencing a financial boom. Always the underdog, there is now a hunger for respect, a yearning to compete, and one team has encapsulated this spirit.
White, same spot, got it again! Fouled as well! Look at those scenes at My State Bank Arena.
You could feel the momentum of the people just getting on board and really falling in love with basketball. We're just scratching the surface of this young franchise in its infancy, in my opinion.
The entire Tasmanian community has embraced the Jack Jumpers, very united behind the one national team.
Jack Jumpers have exceeded every expectation of mine of what could be done in a space of 2 years. Their success has really inspired not just Tasmania, but I think they've become the second favourite team of everyone else. I think it's built as a quintessential Tasmanian team, so the chant of the march, the atmosphere of the game is like nowhere else. Sold out every game, this is great.
Shout out to the Jack Jumpers.
There you go. Tasmanian Jack Jumpers. I like those jerseys too.
A people with a fierce pride for their homeland is represented by an organisation committed to defending it, designed to intimidate every team that visits.
Being in My State Arena with a packed crowd, and they always are, and the crowd just absolutely goes off.
The very first game that I turned up to was probably the most exciting sporting event that I've sat through in my life.
Tasmania now has a club that will never say die.
Defend the Island motto is amazing, and that's what everyone feels.
A team that has captured the hearts and minds of Tasmanian fans and brands.
Corporate Tassie is again, been great supporters of the Jack Jumpers, not only for their own sponsorship gains, but of course they want to be part of something special.
For 25 years, we didn't have a team in the NBL. And so when we did get one, Tasmanians turned up in droves. And the Jack Jumpers embedded themselves into the community. Yeah, it was a beautiful fit.
A new love for basketball lived through the passion for their Jack Jumpers.
It's gone across the board of everyone from kids in school to all the way to our sponsors. I mean, obviously we're all swinging above our weight at some level.
McVeigh on the offensive glass, it goes!
Tasmania's sports fanatics have found their voice, and the story is just beginning.
So what I'm going to talk about is why Defend the Island is so important to us. And I'm going to bring that back down to you and think about what's your version of Defend the Island, because everybody has something that is unique to them. So there are some mandatories about commercial partnerships, and I'm also going to go through just these little things. Touched on quite a few of them, and I'm going to talk about how you can think about them in your world when you're going out to pitch. The first thing I will say is sponsorship is storytelling. I never call myself a salesperson. I don't think I am. I think there's a connotation that goes with a salesperson that I don't want. I say I'm a relationship builder and I'm a storyteller. So what I can do is learn, listen, and then relate it back to what I do and somehow come out with a story that we can tell together. So when I visited my state bank for the very first time, they talked to us about some of the different things that they needed to do to connect into their community. When I talked to Tasgas, they wanted to bring energy into the game. Obviously, they're an energy company. And of course, Banjo's being a bakery and wanted to connect with children. So I go and talk to them first. I find out what it is that they want. I then go back and look at all the assets I've got and come up with some ideas for them to help them tell their story through me as a platform. So I never say that you whack a logo on anything and that's the end of the story. The logo is the cover of your book, and that is only the bit that it either attracts us to picking it up and reading it or not. And you've got to think about brands' logos like that. You can slap a logo anywhere, but there's barely a logo that's got a reason to be on a basketball court. You think about maybe Spalding, who are a ball supplier, but there's certainly no need for a bank or the Spirit of Tasmania or anybody to be on a basketball court. So I've got to create a whole story around why these brands are actually on the court. So this is really, really important. It's what I want to hone in on today, is people don't buy you, they buy why you do it. Why do you do what you do? And I've got to say, sport and clubs is a passion project. It runs on the help of volunteers. A lot of people do it in their spare time. And those of us that work in it certainly do not work 9 to 5. Anyone in my club, including myself, is working 6 or 7 days a week and up to 10 hours a day as we lead into a season. So you certainly don't do it for anything but the passion and the love of what you do. I work in sport because I believe that people need a place to belong. I believe sport's a great equaliser. And I also believe that when people come to games, it gives them 2 or 3 hours of escape from their lives. And some people have heavy shit going on every now and then, and sometimes they can come to a game or absorb us, and that it lightens them up. And that is no different to what you do. If you're putting on a netball game or a football game, a bowls, it doesn't matter. People go there to escape from what is otherwise mundane in their lives. They do it because they love it. So every single person in this room that represents a club or an organisation has a unique selling point. And ours is to defend the island. And I'll talk to you about that a little bit more. So every organisation knows what they do and the products they sell and the services they offer. That has been no different in any club I've represented across AFL, rugby or basketball. We all know what we do. We all know what we offer. We offer a game of football, memberships, ticketing, sponsorships. Some organisations actually know how they do these the things that make them or set them apart from. So I might be more caring about my partners, so that sets me apart. So that's great. But if I leave, what does that mean? So it's actually got to always come back to your why. Why does your organisation exist? What do you believe in that makes you so special? Because that is what people connect with. They connect with your core values. They connect with your big belief, and every club has one. And whether you're a local club that is there to service the local community and that you provide a safe haven for people to come and play sport, whatever your purpose is, everybody's is unique. And I'm not saying that your unique selling point is because you wear a different colour uniform to the next person. It's so much deeper than that. And it is worth taking the time to think about what it is that when you go and pitch, why you would sit in front of a Christie. And I never sat in front of anyone and said, I'm selling a basketball club. I said, I'm selling an experience of belonging in a competition that provides excitement. And basketball happens to be part of the project. A guy called Simon Sinek, he has a 20-minute presentation online. Simon Sinek is one of the greatest marketers, and he talks about the golden circle a lot, and he brings it back to how the best brands sell themselves. And at a real macro level, you can understand, he talks about Apple and all of those major brands, but then when you bring it back to your own level and you start to apply the why to what you do, everything becomes so much clearer. So I just want everyone to just take a little bit of time right now and just have a bit, get some food, a coffee, a water, and just write down what you think your unique selling point is. You can chat amongst your table a little bit, but have a think about what it is. If anyone wants to workshop that with myself or Christy about how you bring that into your own brand, I'm more than happy to do it. While you're doing that, defending the island to us is our unique selling point in the way that we are the team that represents Tasmania on the national and international sporting stage. We have one objective as a club, and that's to make sure that we make our island really proud when we step out in the court, when we step out into our community, or when we go anywhere around Australia. We know that we are representing Tasmania. We behave like Tasmanians, which is, and we're very authentic in the way we're humble, because that's part of the people that we represent. So on a plane, we dress appropriately, we say hello to people. Our players are very clear about the mandatories of being a jack jumper because they know they're representing the people of Tasmania. And that is all part of our bigger belief of defending the island. So within your own circles, you can have a think about what it is that your club does for your community that makes you so unique compared to the club next door or the club to your right, your left, or anywhere else. And I just want you to just have a couple of minutes to think about it while we're in the moment. I don't expect everyone to come up with their big picture right now. In fact, this wasn't my idea, Defend the Island, it was actually Scott Roth. I had a different one, and I thought, you know, I'm the marketing guru in the club. I've got a big idea about we're going to be the big sporting club. It's going to represent, and he goes, oh, you can say all of that if you like, Finny, but for me it's just defend the island. And I was like, how cool is that? And those three words have absolutely defined us as a club. So it can be really simple, but even if you just jot down some ideas now, just to take a little bit of a break, and I'll just give my voice. And as Christy said, this is super important, and I know we're talking that we're all very lightly resourced. We are lightly resourced at the Jack Jumpers too. We have 14 people in the front office trying to do the work of 45 people, and so I do understand that sometimes path of least resistance is the best way to go, but if you can just take some time and understand who you are pitching to and put some time into that, the rewards for you will be great, because I can tell you there is never a one-size-fits-all strategy. What my state bank might want versus what Spirit of Tasmania want, I can tell you they're very, very different. And in fact, I couldn't have two brands like my state bank in the principal partner space because it would be way too time-consuming. Spirit of Tasmania are about letting people know that this service operates from Tasmania and using our platform nationally to promote it. My state bank are about connecting with the Tasmanian community and really honing in on really high-touch events and acquisition and activations in the Tasmanian community. So they're completely different. So if I just sent them, here's my pitch, and for the bargain basement price of such and such, you can have this, they both probably wouldn't have even one read it or two engaged with it. So it is really, really understanding that don't just put something generic together, because it will actually be your biggest waste of time. So this is an example of me going to my state bank and saying, what is it that you need? And they said, we're a bank for our community. We really need to hone in on our community, connect with our customers. You know, we really want our customers to make sure when they come in, they don't leave. And also we want to acquire new customers across Tasmania. So when we pitched to them, The community focus was our title page because they're community to the core and so are we. So think about where your brands align when you're going back to tell your story to pitch it in. So Christy spoke about this and I'm trying to bring this back once again. I mean, obviously we've got a reasonably big database and all of those things, and we've got a sort of a big platform, but everybody in this room has something valuable to offer a partner. And I can tell you, data is king. Every partner that I've dealt with wants to know what your database, how many people you've got on your database, and it doesn't matter if you've got 100 or 100,000. If you know who those people are and that they can connect with them through you, then they're interested. What we found at St Kilda and even at the Jack Jumpers is that we had all these people on our database that were CEOs of companies, that were directors of global companies. One owned Moose Toys, which is a global brand. We didn't even know we had these people in our database, and yet they were connected to our club. So then once we kind of understood our customer and drilled into our membership base and had a look at who we had a very interesting story to tell, especially in that business-to-business space, of the kind of people you can acquire or get to know through our club by partnering with us, and people love that. They love to get to other people through your club. So there's obviously the brand exposure. I've spoken to you about that. That's the logo, that's the sign, but it's all those other things that are going to make that deal work or not and get you over the line. So this is kind of a few of the different things that we've integrated our brand in. So each one of those things is in response to the brief Christy gave me. So she says to me, we've got a high net wealth database of customers. We want to do something for them to make sure we retain them. We don't want them to go off to the Commonwealth Bank. We want to give them some money, can't buy intimate experiences. So I go back to her and say, well, how about we do dinner with the captain and coach just for 20 people, very intimate, invite your customers, no one else is allowed to come, it's in a private dining room, and then your customer, this customer base can connect with someone that everybody in the state wants to get to. We'll make that happen. We'll organise the dinner. You bring the customers. We can do an ultimate Jack Jumpers experience. Take out a home loan and we'll give you an experience that you won't otherwise get if you're not taking out a My State Bank home loan. And same with Membership Drive. Another thing that My State Bank get, she wanted her customers to have a unique experience when they get to the arena. So they get to go to the My State Bank line, so they cut through the noise. They get in and they go to a lounge pre-game and they get a bit of food and drink, and they have an experience that's above others because they're a My State Bank customer. She tells me, Christy outlines everything they want to achieve. I take it back and go, what have I got and how's that going to answer the brief? I mean, I've got 1,000 ideas. She doesn't take all of them, but
99 we do.
But you can always think about ways you can align their needs to your brand.
Yeah, probably there, Christine, like we were talking today about, we've got a multi-year partnership. What worked in year one or what didn't work in year one, it's, although we might have agreed with this at the start of the partnership, things change, the world changes, things like that. So it's also being able to adapt and change as well, because we've got things that we implemented that we thought were going to be great in year one of the partnership. And, after the first year, they didn't work. So it's just having the ability to call that and say, that didn't work, how about we do this? And it's just having those open conversations kind of constantly to say, this is working, this is not working for us.
And in that period, interest rates went from home loans went from 2% to 6.5%. Are we going to talk home loans, or are we going to talk about, term deposits where you're actually going to get return on your investment rather than a product that we're all feeling a little bit nervous about? So you've got to be able to understand your partner again and say, okay, we get that you need to switch that campaign, and be agile enough to do it. And be willing enough to do it, because, obviously you want to work as closely with them to reach their objectives as you possibly can. This is a big one for me, and this is something I talk about in the club all the time. It's absolutely a non-negotiable. Actions, not words. Don't talk about what you're going to do it. So if you promise something, you deliver it. And, and I always say, and would you like fries with that? Always think about the 1%ers, the little things that you can add to an experience to make sure that, you know, I always say getting them in the front door and never letting them go out the back door. Retention is so much cheaper than acquisition. Going out and finding new partners is hard, it's laborious, whereas if you get them in, do everything you can to keep them, look after them. The customer is the most important person on your premises, because they are reliant on you, you know, and you need to see them as your greatest asset. So every partner we get, we treat with kid gloves. We try to most of the time. Of course, we do get things wrong, but I always talk to the team about the 1%ers and the what else. So the contract's important, but always think about the care and the concern you can show, and get to know your partners deeper than what's written in a contract, because I do believe relationships are the key to building trust and to longevity. So really the whole actions, not words piece is super important, and I can give you 1,000 examples of where that has worked and when it hasn't worked. So, you know, I know how hard these things are to get, but I know my mum always said manners are free. Caring for people, looking after people, it doesn't take too much out of you. So really making sure that you deliver against what you say you're going to deliver. I can't stress that enough. And hopefully you're not going to comment that we haven't been doing that. I think that's, yeah, so basically they're the keys. I wanted to just pull out the things that I thought you could make relevant to your everyday world. I'm hoping there's a few things in there that you can take away. If anyone's got any questions, we're both here to answer them. Anything that you want. If it's not a question, if you want to know anything else, happy to chat.